Hello, everyone. My final project is focused on the environmental and ethical crisis of fast fashion. Three main ones is Shein, AliExpress, and Zara. So as you can see, we have a landfill here that's just completely scattered by fast fashion products. We have the CEO of Shein sitting on a big pile of cash while his clothing is burned and not recycled in the background. And then, of course, we have the unsafe labor laws and protections here as well. So overproduction and exploitation drive global sustainability crisis. So let me just put it this way. Okay, so every single influencer that Shein pays to do a try-on haul for the summer edition, majority of the clothing, right, ends up here. So summer edition will end up here in, a couple months after summer ends. So it's pretty sad, actually, how quickly the limited edition or the seasonal things end up in landfills and wastes. And then, of course, you have another person doing a Shein try-on haul. So it's very popular among influencers on social media. And then, of course, by making this, supporting the company, you're also indirectly supporting unsafe labor practices and ethical dilemmas as far as that's involved. So to go along with this, behind every glossy website and influencer promotion lies a cycle of overconsumption, exploitative labor practices, and toxic manufacturing processes and mounting environmental destruction. So as you can see, a consumer stepping over the waste here, and I'll get into that in a little bit. The scale of the industry and its impact. So by 2030, the world is expected to purchase over 100 million tons of clothing every year. But where is that clothing going to go? We don't know. It's going to be thrown out in under 12 months. But what we do know is that only 1/4 of 80 billion garments every single year is actually recycled. The rest ends up in overflowing landfills, incinerators, or dumped in developing countries where it pollutes rivers, clogs ecosystems, and damages local communities. So it's not like they could just, they have, some sort of heavy machinery that can take all that stuff out. Developing countries, they got to do it by hand. And it also produces other issues because sometimes they drink from that water and all that stuff. So it's creating heavy pollution. This cycle of overproduction and rapid disposal is pushing our planet towards an environmental breaking point, which is true. It really is. As years go on, the worse it gets. And as you can see, there's a river here. And I hate to tell you, but that river is not naturally red. That is from clothing dye from fast fashion products. And then, of course, you have the you do have the recycle plant, you have the recycle bins, but obviously they're not big enough to hold the 1/4 of the 80 billion garments a year. So that's pretty sad. Then you have the environmental and human costs. So the heavy use of polyester and synthetic fibers not only drives up fossil fuel consumption, but also releases microplastics into the ocean every time clothing is washed, contributing up to 35% of oceanic microplastics. So also, human costs equally severe. You have somebody right here who doesn't want to die because people want the newest fashion. So that's a pretty deep image there. Also, many brands promote sustainability in the marketing, but it's a PR stunt by greenwashing. So greenwashing is promoting that you're more sustainable than you actually are. So for an example, real world example, I used to work in a fast fashion industry in a store called Cotton On, and they used to have they used to have impulse buys, which would be recycled bags, and they'd say save the turtles, all that stuff, when in reality every single clothing item is individually packed in plastic. So every single shirt they have, every single hat they have is individually wrapped in its own plastic bag. And from when I worked there was really no effort to recycle that plastic. So that's pretty alarming, especially if every single store is exactly the same. And then, as you can see here, every time you wash your garments with this stuff inside, recycled polyester, polyamide, acrylic, and polypropylene, every time you wash those garments, microplastic fibers are released. So every time you wash your leggings, microplastics are released. Another thing is cotton. So the amount of water that's needed to produce cotton garments is actually huge. So to produce one shirt and one pair of pants, it takes 20,000 liters of water. So that's a lot of showers and a lot of drinking water to produce one pair of pants and one shirt. And then we have the social, ecological, and technological connections. So you have the consumers that are increasingly aware of sustainability issues. I have stats on that in the next slide. So these people buy it, they promote it, and then they use it, they wear it until they don't want to wear it anymore, and either they recycle it, but that's a very low chance given the stats, or they throw it out and it ends up here. And then the cycle just repeats. So it's heavily dependent on polyester production, which is fossil fuel based, synthetic dyeing processes, chemical intensive, and a global manufacturing system with low recycling rates, as I showed you on the previous slide. So while sustainable textile innovations do exist, adoption remains slow compared to the speed of fast fashion production, which is also true because of, who is requiring people to do textile innovations. There's just really not a whole lot of requirements in that field. And then you have the human side of fast fashion, right? You have the child labor, you have the consumers who are aware versus the amount who actually take action, and then of course you have the celebrities and influencers who keep pushing it. So obviously children working in the industry don't have strict labor standards. And this little boy, this looks like clothing dye that he's hooking up. So it's very sad to see a child in the labor industry, especially in fast fashion. And then, although 75% of consumers say they're aware of sustainability issues in fast fashion, only a small percentage are willing to pay more for sustainable alternatives. So, that just goes to show you that 75% of people know and only 25% take action. So that's also a little bit alarming and unfortunate. Then you have the trend cycles, you have the social media, haul culture, and the constant push for new looks. So next time, Kim Kardashian wears something cool, 12 knockoff brands in whatever country will create just mass tons of these products, millions of the products, and sell them to people overseas, and then they'll wear it until the trend dies out, throw it away, and then the cycle repeats. Then you have the polyester synthetics, you have the cotton and the ecosystem service disruption. So microplastics in the ocean, polyester and synthetics increase fossil fuel use and sheds microplastics every time you wash it. Then you have the cotton production. It has a lot of pesticides. We went over water usage in creating those garments, and they also contaminate soil. And then you have the economic issues about climate change. That also ties in with the polyester and synthetics, increases fossil fuel use. And then we have the strategies for change, right? So you have the enforce stronger labor laws, require full supply chain transparency, and then implement extended producer responsibility, shift to eco-friendly materials, adopt slow fashion models and fewer seasonal collections, invest in real recycling infrastructure, choose secondhand or vintage clothing is what you can do from a consumer perspective, repair and reuse garments to extend their life cycle, and practice mindful consumption. So that's also huge. And then the overall takeaway is that fast fashion obviously will not fix itself. Policymakers need to enforce strong labor laws and environmental regulations. You need to have brands committing to genuine sustainability beyond PR campaigns. And then consumers also need to choose quality, longevity, and ethical sources over impulse buys. So sustainability in fashion needs to go beyond marketing to include transparency, fair labor practices, and long-term environmental responsibility. So that's it. Thank you all. I have my sources right here. I have references and references for my images. So thank you guys. Much appreciated.